Hi, and welcome to episode 7 of the Loud Girl Who Reads podcast. I'm so excited to have this episode, and honestly, I've not been anxious about it, but I've been just thinking about it nonstop. It has been something that's just been on the basis of my brain this entire week. I've been waiting and trying to figure out how I'm going to record this episode, and so I've just been super excited for this. For episode 7, we're going to be talking about Colleen Hoover. She's a very controversial author, and we're going to talk about who she is, and also I asked TikTok and Reddit what their opinion is of her. Some people think that she's, okay, and some people really like her, but a lot of people really hate her. And do you think that she's been mistreated is the main question I've asked? Because for me personally, I just have some iffy opinions on her and how she's been treated, because I just don't genuinely think it's been fair. But, we're going to see what other people think, and we're also going to get down to my opinion and why I think that it's not necessarily fair to treat her how they have. So all that and more on this episode of the Loud Girl Who Reads podcast. Hi again. If you've ever wondered how you can order my books, all of my books that I've written are available through my website, authorlindseyforkel.com. You can order there. There's a link to both of my books through there, and then not only that, but you can search my name, Lindsey Forkel, on Amazon and find my books that way. Everything you do helps me to be able to write more books, and thank you so much for your support. Okay, and we are back. Now, I'm not even gonna wait to jump into this. It's just been driving me crazy, so we're just gonna go ahead and go straight into this. So this is the question that I asked TikTok and Reddit. I said, Colleen Hoover, ... because it needs it. Do you think that she has been mistreated? I personally don't like the writing of Colleen Hoover, but do you agree with how people have treated her? Do you think it is deserved, or ruining her career? As an author, I can't imagine how terrible I would feel knowing my books are constantly being ridiculed. People were very, not necessarily judgmental, but very, personalized, and they had a lot to say on the topic. Now, from me personally, I have seen Colleen Hoover literally everywhere on Book Talk or whatever, on TikTok. Now, I don't even look that much on TikTok, but anytime I see a book rating or something that they're criticizing a book, 99% of the time it's a Colleen Hoover book. Now, partly that is because, she's a big author. She's had a movie made after one of her books. She has, she's had a huge career, and she's had some of the best-selling books for the past couple of years. Now, with that in mind, though, all I've seen is hate. Now, this could just be from my own personal view. This is just what I've seen. But, that's just, So she's written books like It Ends With Us, Verity, and many more. Most people I've seen on TikTok also, they fell in love with reading through one of her books, which is amazing. But then after that, they come back to the book and they're like, this is the worst book ever. How did I even read this? So let's just get into what people said. So one person said, one of her books is made into a movie. I'm sure she's crying all the way to the bank. Someone else said, since when is her career ruined? Her books check out like it's James Patterson. She's not mistreated at all. She makes salami books and makes people mad and makes mad money. So someone else said, oh, wait, what? I did not read this very much. Someone said, I gotta ask, Google wasn't helpful, but what does salami books even mean? And then they answered and said, it means, it being packaged like salami, a meat that is less desirable part of the animal, smushed together, salted, and repackaged in a way that people will buy it. The book's equivalent is, okay, this is easy money plot. This is, a plot that gets to it really quick. Let's put it in the grinder and put it out into a book in 4 months. Plenty of people like salami. It's sort of meat that people are going to write essays about or show off to their bookish friends. Someone said, haha, thanks for the explanation. I definitely agree with that. Her books are very, like a very quick read, nothing groundbreaking, but easy for her to pump out and easy for readers to read. They also said, in 10 years, she's written over 25 books. At least 11 have become New York Times bestselling author. She sold over 20 million copies. If a source sells her books, you can almost bet that If a bookstore sells books, you can guarantee that she will be on the shelves. Last Christmas, Barnes & Noble had a giant display of her books in the front window. In 2023, Times Magazine's named her one of the most 100 influential people. Do people not like her? Does she get critiqued more than others? Who doesn't have those accolades? Yes, but people who love her will read anything that she puts out, and that's who she's writing for. If all this considered a career that's been ruined, maybe I'll be so lucky. I agree with her, and I also disagree with her. And I'm going to get to that in a second. The last one that I'm going to read from this says, honestly, I don't think that she's been mistreated. I read 30 of her books, and it was a real pain. She makes unacceptable things seem acceptable and even enjoyable. I strongly disagree with that. So, now getting to my opinion. Colleen Hoover, now, this is just in my own words. I don't know her as a person. I will never say this person is a bad person because I haven't met them. But I can say at the very least, she writes trashy books that are easy plots and that, aren't literary works by any means. I've never heard of a person saying this was the most amazing thing I've ever read if they're not like a middle schooler who's read her books. There's just no basis for that. Now, do I think that it's fair for every single TikToker to go on TikTok and completely ridicule her nonstop? No. And I say this from an author standpoint. You look at every single person who critiques and who likes your books. Like I made a TikTok a while ago going through the reviews on my books, and no one had really rated my books. I knew I had sold more than what I've, had people rate. But at the same time, I just wanted people to rate my book so the more people could find it, and, you get the gist. Well, someone commented on that video, actually a couple people commented on it and said, this isn't for you. The reviews are not for you, it's for other readers. And I'm just thinking, but at the same time, they should know that, most people who write a review are going to know that the author's going to read it. I mean, unless they're a big author like Colleen Hoover, they might not read every review. But, it's not too much for me to ask, hey, if you've read my book, go write a review. That'd be great. I didn't see anything wrong with that. Now, if you're constantly, though, just saying crap, basically, about an author, I can't imagine, looking at famous authors, people might say, it wasn't that good, but the best authors haven't had, all this ridicule about them. They might have critiques here and there, but most authors don't have the type of hate that she does. Now, most authors also don't have the scale that she does, but I just don't think it's fair by any means to completely trash an author. And, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If the book is not in your genre, at least don't review it. There's no reason for you to. And I will say that there have been books, now going back to the, middle schoolers read it, which, do I think that middle schoolers should read her books? Not at all. But middle and high schoolers might read her books and think, wow, this is a really good book. Or someone who's starting their reading journey and think, wow, this is a really good book. But then they look back on it and they read all these different books, and that's, their starting point. They read all these different books and they come back to it and they think, that was a terrible book. Do I think that it's fair for them to go back and review it? Not really. And the reason why is because in each point of your life, you're in different stages, right? And so in each point of your reading life, you're in different stages as well. Whenever I was 10, I couldn't read the same books that I can now. It wouldn't make sense to me. But also, now I'm not going to read most of the books I read whenever I was 10. It's just where you are in your, your steps. And I think that a lot of people use her as a baby, baby food. You don't give baby food to adults, and most adults don't give adult food to babies. Because it just doesn't work. And still, I will never recommend her books. But I also, unless I know the person, most times I'm not going to just trash an author just for the joy of it. I don't find joy in that. And I don't think that most adults should, really. That's just, I just feel like that's standard practice. And I don't think that any author should really have to go through, a bunch of people hating their book. Now, I think that it is very valuable to have good critiques. And it takes a lot to be able to take critiques on books because you pour your entire heart and soul into them. And I've had a couple critiques on my books one of the things that people have said, which I don't even think they mean it as necessarily a critique, but on my first book, I wrote it at 17. I mean, it was my first book. And a lot of people have been like, yeah, it reads more of as like a teenager book or like a tween book. But yeah, it was really good. And I'm just thinking, okay, but whenever I'm saying I wrote it for young adults, is that helpful? It takes a lot for me to be able to say, okay, well, you know what? They were trying to help. I have to take that and I can do better. And that means that I just need to work harder to fit into the right category that I'm wanting to be put in. But then, whenever you're taking something and you're just not getting the right context out of it that someone's trying to give you, they're trying to give you helpful advice, that can really be like make or break. And I see a lot of TikTokers now I say TikTokers because that's where I've been growing the most. And so I look and I research to see how to grow in those ways. And I'll see people who like review books. And I've looked at them and they're like, yeah, I'll review your book, but just know it's going to be an honest review. And honestly, I think that's the best way for authors to have people review their books, because if they're not honest, if they don't give a little bit of critiques, then, it's not really helpful to readers. If they say, I loved say it was a thriller book, and they're like, I love the gore, but I didn't really like how much they played like cat and mouse, like it was too much of a chase, seemed too long or drawn out. And they say that, and they're even meaning it as a critique. Someone else might take it as, oh, well, I love that type of thing. I might go read it because of that. Or they might say, okay, I'm like you, and I just don't like that part. That's whenever critiquing comes in handy. But whenever you're only just, talking bad about something, I can't wrap my brain up around how much that would, just kill me. And, even just, I was showing my mom, because my mom didn't know who Colleen Hoover was from her name, but the second I said one of her books, it just kind of snapped in her brain, like she knew who she was. And I was telling her that I was going to talk about this in my next episode. And she was like, oh, well, who was that again? And I couldn't remember her most popular book, It Ends With Us. I know that's probably her most popular book. And I genuinely could not remember the name of it. And so I just searched Colleen Hoover. And I got the top 3 were just good videos. There are people suggesting it. Past the top 3, it was just me, or whenever a reader says they only read Colleen Hoover, and it's just rolling eyes, and just people saying, whenever I read Colleen Hoover at first, me reading it now, seeing and they just hate her. And I don't know her as a person, so I don't know if she's a good person. I don't know if she's a bad person. Am I really the person to judge them? Do I think that I have the right to judge people? No, honestly, no. Because I know as a Christian that, the only person who has the right to judge is God. I don't have that authority, and I also don't deserve that authority because I have imperfect judgment. And so, I can never say, I don't like her writing because she's a bad person, because I don't know who she is. I haven't looked her up that much because her writing is not something I like. But again, I'm just going through and I'm seeing all this stuff, and it's just ridiculous how much people hate her. And, and I've seen certain things saying, she's racist. I don't know her that much. And so that's not the basis of why I'm, somewhat defending her. It's not that I think that she's just, amazing person that just deserves defending. And I even said, in the question, do you think that she deserves this? Does this seem like something that you think that your opinion of Colleen Hoover is so important that you need to blast to the entire world that she is a terrible author? Because I don't think anybody really needs to do that. I don't think there's any reason for any person to blast their hatred towards an author. They can say, because I know myself, I've done this, and I've seen other of my author friends who've done this, where it's anytime you see a post that's terrible books that I read in my 20s or whatever, and it's Colleen Hoover's put on blast, and she's constantly, her name is thrown in there. And I've seen people put that, and I'll laugh and, whatever, but, at some point, it needs to calm down a little bit. I'm not saying that your opinion doesn't matter, but what is the point? Because I don't think there's ever a valid enough point for you to just completely, trash on a person who you just don't like their writing style. I don't personally see it. I don't see any reason why any person really has to do that. And as a writer, I can say that everything that you say to me, I'm going to take to heart. Every critique you give me, I'm going to keep in the back of my mind. Imposter syndrome is already big enough. And even if you're the New York Times bestselling author time and time again, I bet that still goes through her mind. I can't imagine it not going through her mind that, what if I'm just faking this all? What if I'm not as good of an author as I think because everyone else is telling me that I'm not? And, like I said, you could be the biggest author ever and that's still going to go through your mind. Now, I will say one thing that my mom told me that she had watched this, or she had been to this conference about, and they were saying that, if you say that you are the number one author, you can say it as many times as you want because, you just have to make it true. Say it enough times and it will eventually become true. And I wish that could happen to, me as if I say that I'm the best young adult Christian author on the market and it eventually happens, that'd be great. But for her, she's already at basically the top of her game. There's almost no getting higher than where she is as an author. But how will her name be remembered? What is her legacy that she's leaving behind right now with how much hatred there is towards her? Is she leaving a legacy behind where she has all these good books, or even good books by some people's standard, but yet everyone doesn't like her? It wouldn't surprise me if people would use her in college papers or whatever, saying that, she's the epitome of what you shouldn't do as a writer. But even now, at this point, because, I'm looking at it through a Christian standpoint, I'm just saying, even if she were to turn her writing around, she were to become the world's, actually physically, the world's best writer, she changed her genre, she fixed her mistakes, anything that even I could see wrong or anybody else could see wrong, she would be the perfect author. There would be so many people who wouldn't read her books only because everyone else said that they hated her. And I can't imagine that happening. Her next book release, she might have all these people who love her, but I can also see all the people that she's not going to have read her books because of things that they've seen and things that they've heard about her. And if that were me personally, and I knew that, no matter what I do from now on, I'm always going to have this trailing behind me of people who don't like me, I don't even know how I would respond to that. It's almost to the point where I would think that she would even think, what do I even have left to write about if this is all that I get from it is hatred? So, it's definitely something to think about. I hope that no one ever takes one of my books the way that she's had people take hers. And I've also seen people love her books. And even though I don't like her books, I don't want people to hate her books. I think or not hate her books, but hate her. So, if you like her books, I guess good for you. It's not something I would ever read because I don't see any joy, any goodness, anything that you gain out of reading books with smut or trash. And I do think that her writing could use a little bit of, I'm not the world's best writer, but I think that her writing, from what I've heard, could use a little bit, fine-tuning, extra details, creativity issues are definitely a main point that I've seen. But, there's only so much you can say about a person that most people don't know. They only know from what they've heard. So, what can you really do about that? Let's just go straight into a reading and writing update from me. So, now this is for YouTube. I really need some suggestions, but I am about to start reading another book because I just need something to kick me back into reading. So if you have any clean books or clean Christian fantasy books that you want to recommend to me, definitely drop those in the comments. And as for Spotify, I'm going to have a poll going of a couple of the books that I've been reading just to help me decide what I want to read next or how I can keep reading because I need a little bit of a boost. I still haven't been reading a whole lot, but I've been reading my Bible so much more lately. And honestly, that means the world to me. To be able to read my Bible more and, get into that. Now, as far as writing goes, and this is also podcast exclusive. I've been saying a little bit more here and there. Now, this is the kind of stuff that I share with my family, not necessarily with, viewers, because just in case something were to happen and I would, give up on that project or somebody would steal my idea. I don't usually post it on TikTok or Facebook or anything like that. But right now I've been working on a Christmas book. It's called Cocoa and Conversations, and it is in the works. I've written the first chapter and a lot of the outline, but not really, a lot of guts to it, because as the summer's been going on, there's been so many things I've just been like building in my schedule, and I just feel like everything is like, ugh. And so I'm just kind of going through the motions. I've been actually doing pretty well with selling books. Now, I say this and then the next week I'm probably going to sell no books, but I have an author event that I'm part of, a self-publishing workshop, and, book signing after. So my second book signing this year, pretty exciting, but, whenever I'm recording this now, I've actually sold 5 books this week, which, again, this doesn't sound like a lot, but for me, it's really the little wins. I've sold 4 books. If I sold 4 books every day, that'd be almost $60 every day. $60 every day is, practically a paycheck once you start building it up, and that's just through my TikTok or through my Shopify. And so I'm just looking at big picture. If I had, and this is with 2 books out, if I had 4 books out and I was selling 1 of each a day, because that's practically what that is, 1 of each a day or maybe 2 of each a day, that could really build up into something. And so I'm really hopeful for where my career is going as far as, writing books. I'm really hopeful that, I'm able to make this, I don't even necessarily need to be a career, but something worth doing. And I love it whenever anybody reads my books, whenever anybody reviews it, it just makes me want to keep going. And I have no words for how thankful I am for those who supported me through this writing process. And, that's why I do it. But yeah, with this Christmas book, I'm hoping to get it out by Christmas. I've got Antidotal Hearts coming out hopefully by the fall, and then this one I'm working on in the winter for Christmas. Again, it's called Cocoa and Conversations. It's not necessarily Christmas, but it's wintry themed. It has a little bit of Christmas thrown in there, but just a little bit, because I don't even have anything really nailed down for it. But the basis is generally 2 sisters who are basically complete opposites, who are trying to find their way to get over their differences and also trying to get over past hurts that they've exuded towards each other. So that's kind of the basis for that, and I'm really hoping, I think once I get it started, it's just gonna fly straight through it. It's based off of my own relationship with my sister. Generally speaking, my second oldest sister, she's, been my best friend practically my entire life, which also means that we've been in a lot of fights and we've been through some rough years, but I will say that she's always been my best friend, and it's even dedicated to her. I'm good sister for dedicating a book to her. But yeah, I'm really excited for that one. And the books that I have coming out this summer taking a little bit longer in the editing process than I thought, but they're inching towards the finish line, and I'm so excited for A Voice of Hope and A Voice of Destiny to come out sometime this summer. June or July is what we're looking at. And so altogether, I'm just super happy with how my writing, at least, has been going. Now, editing has been falling behind, reading has been falling behind, but writing, as far as that's concerned, I'm pretty happy with myself. I've done pretty well, I feel like. Now, typically, whenever I sit down and go to write a book, I can write between 1,000 to 3,000 words a day. If I'm having a really good day, I'll write 5,000. I think one day I got over that. I think one day I got close to 7,000, but that's probably the most I've ever done. And so, considering most of my books are about 40,000 words, which doesn't sound like a lot again, but most of my books are about 40,000 words, 5,000 words a day, that's hardly any, that's so much whenever you think about how many days it would actually take me to finish a book. And if I did 7,000 words, that would be even less. So I've got a system going down. I think the more books that I write, I'm up to 5 right now that I've written. The more books that I write, the quicker I can do it, which I never thought that I would be able to write a book in, a month and a half. But I've been doing it, pretty consistently, which I think, I've seen someone read it or write a book in a weekend. I don't think I'll ever get to that point, but a month and a half is pretty decent. Not too shabby, if I do say so myself. So let's just jump right into a tip to leave you with. Tip to leave you with today is going to be this. Whatever you do, please just be kind to authors. Authors pour their lives, their souls, everything they have into writing. And when you hate on a book or whether you love a book, it means everything to us because we've poured our heart and soul into something and someone is critiquing it or they're telling you how good it is, and we take that to heart. Whether you're the biggest author or the smallest, every single thing that you say is probably going to get back to us, and we care. That means every single time we go to write, we're going to hear your own words, whether they're written, whether you've said it in a video, we're going to hear them and we're going to take them to heart, and that could be good or that could be bad. And so I just really hope that you think about everything you say and be kind to your fellow authors and just authors in general. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Loud Girl Reads podcast. If you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, definitely go do that. I show other videos, not just this podcast, on YouTube through author Lindsey. There's compilations of my TikTok videos, shorts. There's also my podcast in there in video format, as well as on Spotify. If you're on YouTube and you haven't followed me on Spotify, definitely go do that and rate this podcast. Everything you do helps me to be able to make more of these and hopefully one day monetize this. So thank you so much for your support and happy reading.